Listen, I want you to picture the story the way it really happened, not the way it's usually told. When people speak about Christ, they talk about the crowds, the miracles, the 12 men who walked beside him. They talk about the sermons, the authority, the power, and all of that matters. It changed the world. But that's not the full picture, because behind that movement, beneath it, around it, holding it together in ways most people never stop to consider, were women, not loud, not trying to take anything over, not demanding a place in the spotlight, but they were there. And if you really slow down and look, you start to realize something. They were part of why the story endured. Think about it for a second. When things were easy, when the crowds were full and the miracles were happening, it wasn't hard to follow Christ. People gathered, people believed. It felt powerful to be near him. But what about when everything fell apart? What about when he was arrested? When fear spread? When the same voices that shouted praise turned into accusations? That's where you start to see the difference. Because a lot of people stepped back, but some didn't. Look at Mary Magdalene, not as a symbol, but as a real person, a woman who had every reason to walk away, every reason to disappear when things became dangerous. But she stayed. She stayed when it got uncomfortable. She stayed when it got painful. She stayed when it looked like everything they believed in had just been crushed. And when Christ was crucified, when hope itself seemed to be nailed to that cross, she was still there, not speaking, not trying to be seen, just there. And when the tomb was sealed and the world thought it was over, she came back early, quietly, faithfully, and she became the first to witness something no one else on earth had seen. Not because she demanded anything, but because she remained when others couldn't. And then think about Mary, mother of Jesus. Try to really understand what that means. She said yes to something that didn't come with clarity. No guarantees, no explanation that would make sense to the people around her. She carried him before anyone believed in him. She raised him in years the world never records. And then she watched him be rejected, beaten, and executed. And she didn't leave. She stood there, in the worst moment imaginable, holding on to something deeper than what she could see. That's not weakness. That's a level of strength most people don't even understand. And it didn't stop there. History keeps echoing this same truth. You see it in someone like Joan of Arc, a young woman who didn't rise up because she wanted power, but because she believed she was called to stand for something bigger than herself. She wasn't backed by comfort. She wasn't protected by approval. She stood anyway, and she paid for it, but she didn't break. And even beyond the names we know, there were countless women history doesn't even record. Women who supported the mission quietly, who made sure people were fed, cared for, grounded, who prayed when no one else saw, who encouraged when doubt crept in, who stayed steady while everything else shifted. And here's what I need you to really hear. The strength of these women was not in trying to be louder than the world around them. It was in holding things together when everything felt like it was falling apart. It was in choosing faith when fear made more sense. It was in nurturing what mattered, protecting it, sustaining it, even when there was no recognition waiting on the other side. They weren't trying to rewrite their role. They were fulfilling it so deeply, so faithfully, that it became foundational. Because movements don't survive on moments of power alone. They survive on consistency, on loyalty, on people who don't leave when things stop being easy. And that's what these women were. They were presence, they were endurance, they were quiet, unshakable faith. So when you think about the story of Christ, don't just think about who stood in front. Think about who remained, who carried the weight in silence, who believed when belief cost something real. Because without them, the story still exists. But it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't hold the same depth. It doesn't carry the same proof. That faith isn't just something you speak, it's something you live, especially when no one is watching.